In this video, let's look at a summary of quadratic functions as tested in O-level additional mathematics.
This video is part of our 5 minutes of additional mathematics series, where we go through an entire O-level additional math chapter in 5 minutes. Do take a minute to like our video and subscribe to our channel.
Let's start off by looking at a quadratic function. So a quadratic function takes this form: ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so a cannot be 0, but b and c can be 0. So you must at least have an x squared. Okay, so the highest, so if you look at this quadratic function, right, it can be written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. And we'll be looking at it in this form ax squared plus bx plus c in the rest of the chapter. Alright, so you start off with the quadratic function chapter by learning how to complete the square. So to complete the square, right, what you need to do is to change the quadratic equation, the quadratic function from this form to this form. Okay, so I know that it doesn't make sense if we look at it just like this. So let me give you an example. So for example, I have 2x squared plus 4x plus 2. Okay, so to complete the square, firstly, I need to take out a, which is the coefficient of x squared. So now I have x squared plus 2x plus 1. Okay, so next, right, I will divide this by 2. Okay, so divide 2 by 2, I'll get 1. Okay, then follow the sign here. If here is plus, here will also be plus. Okay, then I will minus the square of this number here. Okay, minus 1 square. Okay, so when I complete the square, okay, 1 square minus 1 square is basically 0. So when I complete the square, I'll get 2 bracket x plus 1 square. Okay, so my g is equals to 1 and my h is 0 for this case. Okay, so why do we want to complete the square? Well, when we complete the square, right, it allows us to find the minimum and maximum value depending on the type of equation we have. So when a is greater than 0, right, it is the curve will look like this. The quadratic curve looks like this. So for this type of curve, you have a minimum point. Okay, and this minimum point is given by minus g comma h. So reverse the sign of g, then just follow the sign of h. And this is the y coordinate of the minimum point, and the negative of g is the x coordinate of the minimum point. Okay, and you can say that if the question didn't ask for minimum point but asked for minimum value, then they are asking for a y value. So the minimum value of the curve is h. But if you have a is lesser than 0, if a is lesser than 0, right, the curve will look like this. Okay, when a is lesser than 0, in other words, is negative. So you look at here, you notice that there has a maximum point. So the maximum point is minus g comma h, and the maximum value of y in this case will be h. Alright, so next we look at discriminant b squared minus 4ac. So the discriminant b squared minus 4ac, the b, the a, the c comes from the quadratic function, okay, the coefficients of a quadratic function. So when b squared minus 4ac is lesser than 0, there are no real roots. Okay, when b squared minus 4ac is equals to 0, there are equal real roots. When b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, there are two distinct real roots. Okay, that means when you solve for x, there are two values of x lah. Okay, if the question says that there are real roots but it didn't specify 1 or 2, then you'll use b squared minus 4ac is greater than or equals to 0. Next, you learn about solving of simultaneous equations. So for example, you have 3x squared plus 5y equals to 8, and you have x plus y equals to 2. So to solve a simultaneous equation, what you need to do is you need to make either x, we usually use the substitution method. So I'll use equation 2. I'll make one of them the subject. So for example, I'll make y the subject. Okay, and I label equation 3. Then I will sub 3 into the equation that I have not used yet, which is equation 1. So I'll sub 3 into 1. All right, so you have 3, 2 minus y squared plus 5y equals to 8. And from there, you solve for x and y. Okay, so because now your equation only has y, so you can solve for y already. Once you have found y, sub y into equation 3 and you can find the value of x. So that is how you solve simultaneous equation by substitution. Okay, then finally we learned about solving quadratic inequalities. So when you solve quadratic inequalities, right, what you need to do is to first factorize. Okay, sorry, firstly you need to bring everything to one side, so that you have a 0 at the other side of the inequality. Then next you need to factorize, and finally you sketch the curve and solve. Okay, so for example, if I have 2x squared plus 3x minus 2 greater than 0. So what I'll do first is bring everything to one side. So everything is on one side, so that the other side is 0. So I already have 0 on one side. So this is okay. So next I need to factorize. So 2x, x, 2, 1. Okay, so I'll have 2x minus 1, x plus 2 is greater than 0. Okay, so now if I were to sketch the curve, right, I know that this curve will look like this because the coefficient of x squared is positive. So it will look like this. Next, right, when y is equals to 0, I know that I have negative 2.5. Okay? Okay, so next I want to look at the part of the curve that is greater than 0, which is this portion here and this portion here. So therefore, x is lesser than minus 2 because at this portion here, x is smaller than minus 2, or x is greater than half because at this portion, x is greater than half. So that is how you solve for quadratic inequalities. So that's all for the summary for quadratic functions. So if you want to go through any of the topics in detail, do check out our course on quadratic functions. I'll leave the link in the description below.
Thank you for watching and see you soon. Meanwhile, check out our other videos.